Thank you so much. Great to be with you. You know, I'm an entrepreneur and really glad to have an opportunity to speak. Saw that President Bush was here last night. Was he great? President Bush was a candidate of mine back in 1983 for a search I was doing for the commissioner of baseball. And when I first talked to him, he said, Bob, he says, and he would always call me Bobby Boy. He has a nickname for everybody. And it endears you to someone to have a nickname, doesn't it? It's especially about sons and daughters. Something very important that you should have for your sons and daughters, your nickname. You're who? I couldn't call this the power of friendship because I got 2,700 best friends on Facebook. But today, I'm going to show you something that's so close to you that you've never seen before because it's got to be so simple. I want to start with this thought right off the bat that we try to be reasonable as entrepreneurs. We about what we believe and how we think, and what we believe, though, isn't reasonable, is it? In fact, it's almost hilariously impossible about what it is. But possible things aren't worth much anymore. It's the crazy, impossible things that make us and keep us going. Today, I want to show you a picture of something crazy impossible. I always grew up stalking Arnold Palmer. Anybody love Arnold Palmer? I mean, Arnold Palmer, that's me. That's a picture of me when I was a kid. My dad and I would go everywhere Arnold Palmer went. We were part of his army. Because my dad was an entrepreneur, he wanted me to see some things in an individual that he wanted me to mirror. He wanted me to follow this whole concept of what great people do and what they're able to think because they're risk takers. Arnold Palmer was one of those guys. And in that day, we were at the Bob Hope Desert Class. There's a picture of him at that day, and he's a stud of a guy. He smokes a shot on the 16th hole, and all of a sudden hits it into the woods. And back in those days, they didn't have ropes. So Arnie comes over at the 16th hole, and he drops the bag, and he's hitching his pants, and, he's got the cigarette, and he throws the cigarette, and he just oozes with charisma. And, great people have this kind of personal environment that I always say in executive recruiting. I can tell minutes before you walk in who you are and what your personality is like. So they walk over, and the caddy's surveying the situation for Arnie. He's in the woods. It's 240 yards underneath this tree. He's got to hook it left, then all of a sudden to a green that's tight, tucked in with traps. And the caddy looks at him and says, now listen, Arnie, hit a wedge. Hit a wedge right out there. We'll get back in the game. We're okay. Arnie's kind of rattling the wedge in the bag. Great people hate to hit wedges. It drives them mentally insane. So he gets great energy from all the people around him. And he's rattling the wedge, and slowly, standing over here to his left is my dad and I. And he's rattling the wedge, and slowly he turns his head to his left to get some energy, and there's my dad and my dad does this. The caddy goes, I saw that! Don't look at that man, hit the wedge, hit the wedge. Arnie smirks and says, he rattles the wedge. He slowly turns his head to the left. My dad gives him the no sign again. Arnie stalks over to see if he could hit this shot. Could he get a shot underneath that tree, hook it left, get it up to the green? He walks back to the bag, and he rattles the four-wood. Slowly, he turns his head to the left. My dad gives him the yes sign. He barks at the caddy, move the bag, pulls out the four-wood, sets himself up. What a finish. Underneath the tree. All of a sudden, it just tucked underneath it, and boom, it all of a sudden, like a homing signal, turns left. Boom, 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 bounces up 6 feet from the pin. The crowd goes nuts. He turns to my dad. He's saluting my dad. And the folklore of Arnold Palmer is all because of my dad. What is it about great people? Do they do some things that other people aren't willing to do? I looked at these four that we just had up here. They are not okay with doing reasonable things. They've looked at life and said, I want to be on the edge. I want to get excited about life. Well, holy cow, we've all of a sudden lived a life a lot of times doing this road all by ourselves up in this beautiful place. We're having a great time. I don't have to think about the poor people in Honduras. I don't have to think about the 15 million people out of a job today. The 69% of the country that believe that a bad day at the beach is better than a good day at work. The 80% of the country that's not using their number one talent. So we're spending billions of dollars training people in jobs they don't want to do. The 60% of the country that's getting divorced as a result. All of a sudden, this beautiful, beautiful scene, oh my gosh, bam! We're hit. The great philosopher, Mike Tyson, he once said that everybody has a plan until they're hit. Yeah! I don't want to get up and see that guy. Hit crazy guy. That's what he does in this thing, and he's like a psycho guy. Well, so what the heck is a hit today? Oh my gosh. I had lunch yesterday with a guy who found out he just had cancer. He hasn't told his wife yet, but he's telling me. And I'm on the outskirts of his who. The people who in your life who matter most. I just met with a person the other day whose son is in deep trouble on drugs. To numerous friends who call me every day, who tell me, I just lost my job, my self-esteem is in my job. Who are all these people? Do we care? Of course we do. They're our friends. You were created to do life with your friends, to help your friends. But our life has thrown us a curve. It's smacked us because we were told that friends in business are taboo. Give it the Heisman Trophy, push away. I really can't talk to you right now. I'm really busy. I'm going to be with influencers. Maybe President Bush, because I saw him last night, he'll actually help me. What? He doesn't know you. Try calling and see if you get an answer. You're out of your minds. Listen, what used to work doesn't work anymore. So, if you want something right now that you never had, you're going to have to do some things you've never done. If you don't have a plan for your life and for your kids and for your aging parents, if you don't have a plan, someone's got one for you. I don't know about you, but I don't want somebody else's plan. We're already getting our butts kicked. Do you not have time for the people who matter most in your life? We got to have some time with them. So I wrote a book. I get 52,000 resumes a year. Dear sir, to whom it may concern, dear recruiter. Dear recruiter, that's an oxymoron, isn't it? I want you to take everything you've ever heard about networking and throw it out. Dump it. Expel it. Kiss. How many people here from New Jersey? The Sopranos said, forget about it. Why? Because everything we know about networking is crap. It's been told a lie to us because faceless websites, handing out business cards to strangers, and sending out recruiter stuff, job fairs. What? This is insanity. Friends help people get deals, jobs. Friends are everything. So here's the first thought. What if each of us were given specific people in our lives to help us in ways we never imagined? What if these people aren't happenstance acquaintances, but they're strategic relationships that were meant to be actively involved in helping you find that place in life you always dreamed about. See, I think we miss the whole simplicity of destiny. What if finding our next job, helping us find our mate, helping us all of a sudden get our mom into a hospital, isn't about who we don't know, but whom we've neglected? Sometimes the most profound ideas, the most revolutionary concepts, they're the simplest, but they're the hardest to see. What I'm going to tell you today is that you already know everyone you need to know. We're not going out to a bunch of people we don't know. Strangers aren't helping you in your crisis at the time you need it most. The people you even actually think you know, you're not even actually spending time with. Everyone comes up and says, hey, Bob, we're old friends, da-da-da. What's my wife's name? Been in my house for a barbecue? Come on, let's go deep this year. Let's stop this crap that everyone's been calling, because friendship today is disingenuous. It implies something that it's not. It implies friendship when it means mere acquaintances. There's a hierarchy of thought that's a mind blower. Think about this. You go in for a deal, you go in for a job. You know, they're the same. The reason I can show this so much is that I'm an executive recruiter. My dad started a firm in 1967 out of McKinsey. We're one of the major firms. We have Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco, 15 countries in Europe. We're a hidden hang. Korn Ferry's not around. Russell Reynolds, all this. We're the firm. We're going, heading down. Everything's hitting fast. And all of a sudden, we're just like pressed onto this thing. And I've got to go sell you on giving me a search. I need your chief financial officer search, so I got to sell you. And then I sit on the other side, and you're my candidate for the CFO, and I get to watch you make your pitch to me. It's the same. Identical. Here it is. There's 4 things that everybody thinks about when you walk in the room. You're trying to get your kid into school, you're trying to do anything you network for, you're trying to raise money. All the guys up here who are trying to raise money, do funds, everything that they're trying to tell you is all about the power of who. It's the craziest thing in the world. Everything's about who, and it's not about what. So here's the 4 things everybody thinks about. How do I know you? I wonder who referenced you and why you're here. Do I like you? Do you understand my needs? Are you the most qualified? It's like getting the test answer before the test. So what does everybody like to sell? Accomplishment. Here's my resume, here's my brochure. I work for this big venture capital firm. This is what I did. I just did this. I just raised 22 million and this. But I don't know you. There's 7 people in line for every deal. So guess what? Well, that's out. So we move right to the next one. Do you understand my needs? Well, I think I could probably sell you on the fact that I understand your needs better than anybody else. But here's the question. Does a woman actually let a man actually understand her needs before she knows you? That's out. Okay, so now we're at do I like you? And here's the question, is do I like you? Well, if I didn't know you, how many minutes do you have with a CEO? 1.5 minutes. Because your friend's coming in next. I got Jeff coming in, and I dig Jeff. And really, these deals are all done before you even got in there. You knew that. I mean, this half of this stuff is all things. So the question comes down to, do I know you? Are you known? How are you known? You have to be known to be needed for anything you want. Who is this guy? This is Joshua Bell. This is the child prodigy, the greatest violinist of our day. You know the difference between genius and child prodigy? Genius, you learn as you go. Child prodigy, they just pick up that thing and wham, they just know it. How do they do that? That's just unbelievable. This guy's unbelievable. They are sold out anywhere he goes. But what if we put him in street musician clothes in Philadelphia with a hat with tips at rush hour? How many people are going to stop for the most renowned young superstars? 1,070 walked on by. 7 stopped, $13 of tips. What's the point? They're not stopping for him. They're not stopping for you. They're not stopping for your kids. They're not stopping for anything you want in life. They don't know you. But I'm telling you, you already know everyone you need to know. I'm telling you that you got who? God didn't make any mistakes here. God gave you specific friends to help you in ways you never imagined. This is a picture of your who world. You know, we actually really need to think through how our friends fit into each of these slots, don't we? It's really interesting as you start to look at it, because no one's really stopped to really think about their friends, because we haven't thought about our friends so long, because we believe that our friends are not conduits and resources to our dreams. In fact, we were taught, because of Bernie, Madoff, I call him Madoff, we were taught that we have to disclose friends as evil instead of declaring them as great. I call that crap. The top 1% of the country has done everything in their entire life by friends. And what are we told? Join the matrix. You know that's true. Because there's times that you really want something. So look at this. The most important circle is this first one. It's your inner circle. We're going to talk about that. This is your 12 friends, 3 close and 1 best. Do you know who those are in your life? Have you thought that through yet? These are the most important people in your life. You get 1 mega person in your life. Then you get 3 who know who you are, can speak into your life, because a friend is someone who knows the song in your heart, and they can sing it back to you when you've forgotten the words. Friends, oh my gosh. Friends are spiritual. Friends are people who are unconditional. Friends pick you up and love you when no one else does. Friends look at you and call you a dumbass for doing that, but they still dig you. Some of these other people, well, you did that, so you're out, and I'm not going to do it, and I got to step away from you, and I don't take your telephone calls. I don't do this for you. This second group of people are called your who friends. These are people who came into your life for a reason or a season. Do you know that you had someone, that every top person, if we would have interviewed the 4 here, you'd have interviewed George W. Bush, and you'd have spent time with anyone, everybody can go back, and you look at your own life, you can go back in your life and look at one person who spent only 5 minutes with you, and they made such an impact on your heart. Some people come into your life, and they leave instantly, and others stay and forge such an impact on your soul that you're changed forever. Friends, you got to remember who these people are. Poof, they moved to Boise. Do you think you were supposed to let them go? You don't get that very many. You only get, in the first 2 circles, between 1 and 100 in your whole life if you're the greatest networker. The next group are, and we're not going to even talk about a lot of these other groups, but this next group are allies. These are friends of your friends. Your friends can get you things that you never even thought you could ever get. That's why when you saw the first example of him building the house, who did he do it with? Just family friends. We can do something right now. This group here, oh my gosh. We could change the world with the people in here. Do you know that in each of you, you do one thing better than anyone else in the whole world? You are a treasure chest of gifts and talents. You're the most amazing person in the world. And you have to have your friends to remind you of that. You have to have friends to tell you and lift you up and bring you to this point. Because when I inspire and encourage that in your heart, you want to do that with those next to you. So let's get right to the thing. Who's your 12? Can you start to write these down in your mind? My dad was my number 1. Oh, wish my dad was around. My dad was kind of this guy who would just invest in your life and always treated you the way you wanted to. He was my who. And then when my dad passed away, it was impossible. I mean, I lost my dad, I lost my partner, I lost my best friend in one day. I had to stop and then ask my wife to be my number 1. Do you know you have to declare friendship? The reason we're all confused about friendship is we never declare it. I gotta go. You're my best friend. It's a little weird for guys. It is. It's just a little weird. I mean, except if we're like at a football game and we like all over each other and We're jumping, we're high-fiving, we're low-fiving, we're doing stuff. You're licking my ear. I mean, it wouldn't matter. I mean, you guys are into this stuff at the highest thing, at the level. Women, they get this because women have a sixth sense. Women are just spiritual. Women understand friendship. But after the age of 35, men stop having friends. Big mistake. Monstrous, huge. You got to know these people. You have to declare your 12 because your 12 are everything. Listen to me. Jesus had 12 friends, 3 close, 1 best. Everyone knows who he is. 2,000 years later, still doing deals. You got to come to grips with this. This is a crazy thought, but I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. So go back. This is your next circle. Okay, these who friends? Where do we find these people? Well, you got to remember, reach out, and reconnect with the people who matter most in your life. Do you know that we almost think that there's some guys that we call and then we say, I hadn't talked to this person in years. In fact, in the South, if I asked you for help, in the South, that's almost seen as rude. What? Listen to me. There's 2 parts of our brain that drop endorphins. These 25-year study that drop endorphins, and they say they make you euphorically happy. It's not position, power, money, and sex. It's gratitude and giving. So think about this. If you and I are best friends and I asked you for help, would you help me? He said yes. But why would you deny me the same joy of helping you? See, we don't like to ask other people for help. You love to help me. You're an amazing giver, but asking other people, I haven't talked to Bob in 20 years. He's an executive recruiter. I can't come up to him now and say, would you help me, even though we had a moment. That's crap. What are you talking about? What do you think I got like Alzheimer's? I can't remember you? No, your friends remember you. Once someone takes a place in your heart, this is the phenomena. Once someone takes a place in your heart, it never leaves. Now you know that resonates in your heart. See, friends are different than acquaintances. Friends help you now. Acquaintances wish you well. How many people love this movie? Oh, this is a movie. Listen, you're all a bunch of George Baileys. That's who you are. George Bailey was just about to get out of Bedford Falls when all of a sudden his dad dies. So, oh my gosh, does he leave the town and his savings and loan to the evil Mr. Potter, or does he jump in and save it because he's an entrepreneur? He jumps in and saves it, builds a wonderful life. The whole town thrives. Everything's great until his partner, Uncle Billy, loses a large cash sum. All of a sudden, Mr. Potter steals it. Here's where we are. So the big question, this is the whole point of the movie. Does he go back to his friends? The people in life he built the whole town for. Does he go back to his friends and say, I need your help. We messed up. We lost this whole bit of money. No. He goes to Potter. The one person in life you know is not going to help you. It's human nature. We're doing this. We go get loans from people who are bad people. They're bad. They don't like you. They're going to screw you and you know it. So, did he learn his lesson? Did George Bailey run back now to town and said, hey, he told me no, I need your help? No! He runs to the closest bridge to jump off. And unfortunately, people are doing that all over the country. Lucky he had a wife, a friend, who called all the friends that were there all along. And one by one, they gave the gifts that are right there in front of you right now, but you gotta ask. You're not getting anything because you don't like to ask. You're not getting any of the big dreams because you've given up on your dreams. You're holding your dreams back. You're thinking, I don't have any who. There's people in here who got problems with kids. There's people in problems already with cancer. And we have to dump this. We can't hold all this to it. That's why you have to have a plan of attack that's better than this. Until all of a sudden, George Bailey's brother comes in and he says to George Bailey, the richest man in town, he was rich with what? What is it? Exactly. You got who? You have a Verizon ad of people behind you. So in the circles, I have 5,365 people that know Bob now. It took me 5 million miles on American Airlines to do that. Then I did a study of who's touched my life, given me any business. Oops, 87. When I pulled dumbass off my forehead. Focused in on my who, the people in my life who actually liked me, my business quadrupled. Listen to me, yours will too. We're created to be with a specific tribe of people. People who celebrate you, not tolerate you. People who encourage you, look at you and say, crap, you look good today. You look great. Hey, you're going to have a baby in 2 weeks. That's amazing. And then we just go over and we all just pray for her. We pray for health and blessing on that child. And the tough aspects of what it's like after you have a child for the next couple weeks. You got who? Look at this. It's like this Verizon ad of people. Do you know that we have that right now, that you have this community of friends? Let's just say I brought you in the room with my 87. And you looked and you saw, hey, there's Troy Aikman. Hey, there's all of a sudden, President Bush is in the room and so-and-so is in this room. And you looked and said, my gosh, I got to get to that person. I got to know them. I've got to get my business card out. I'm going to hand it to them. Do you know how lonely that thought is? That's not a good thought. What do you do if you need something from my 87? You ask me. I'm your friend. I'm the one who brought you. I'll get it for you because that's what friends do for friends. It's unconditional, but we've forgotten what friendship's all about. So why isn't everybody doing this all over the country? Well, because one, we don't ask. It's an epidemic problem today. We want to do it my way. You know that song, the Frank Sinatra song? The only problem is Paul Anka wrote it. Somebody else did the orchestration, the arrangement. The only thing that Blue Eyes did was he came in and sang. Then we ask the wrong who because we really don't know our friends. It's been so long that we've actually stopped and told our friends that you're my friend. Guys need friends. We have been taught for a while that going out on golf carts, not a good idea. What? 4 hours of being on a golf cart with someone in business or a friend? Can it get any better than that? That's not worthwhile, but we're going to actually, I'm going to spend like 2 minutes in your office and then, hey, I'm going to start trying to press you with the fact of this, or I can't tell you how at the end, listen to me, my finances are off. What am I going to do? I've overextended. I'm in trouble. I'm thinking some things recently that are just hurting me and I don't know where to go. We don't live our lives in boxes. We have one life. You don't have friends, family, church, clubs, associations. You don't have this little different group, and I'm going to be really good with EO, but then over here with my college friends, I lived out different. I can't tell my church I drink a margarita, God forbid. What happened to us? Well, most of the time when we ask our friends, we say, it doesn't work, Bob. It just doesn't work. I've asked my friends for help. What did you ask them? Well, I told them that I wanted to be in marketing. What the hell does that mean? I'd like to do something big. I'd like to raise some big money for a big project. Well, could you be a little more vague? Listen to me. People come to me all the time. Bob, I'd like to be in sports. So I always say to them, hey, what do you want to be, a referee? Hand towels to the Mavericks? What do you want to do? Listen to me. Jerry Maguire said this amazing line, help me help you. How can I help you if you don't tell somebody exactly what it is you want? Listen, there's 7 ways I want to get into your head about activating the power who. I'm going to talk about 3 today. The first one in this process is just how you start your day matters. I'm not talking about it, but I will say this. There in my life, I start my day with 2 chairs. One for God and one for me. I can't do life without Him. I can't do life if I had something that wasn't bigger than me. that the world didn't just revolve around my search business and my problems. So I consecrated a little spot in my house so that if later I needed to talk to my wife about something or my 3 daughters about something, I could go to a spot that we've actually set in our house and talk. This is about knowing someone. You have to have a spot and know that it's something bigger than just your 5 senses. Second one is, we're going to talk about that one. The third one is that people are in the bunker all over the country. People are not managing adversity well. And people aren't really willing to listen, and they're not really willing to be coachable. But I want to talk first about the deal or the relationship. This is a picture, of course, Aunt B. We all love Aunt B. When I first graduated from SMU, I was in sales, and my very first job, I was selling food service products. And I had this great car. I could sell it because they're going to give me a car. And of course, I graduated from SMU, and so I'm a pretty cool guy. And they give me a Dodge Rambler. It looked like a Blues Brother car. I mean, it was unmarked. It was terrible. I'm going out to Lubbock. I'm going to go to this food service area. And in this area, this school district in Lubbock, I'm going to sell chili to a woman who looks just like Aunt B. There's been 198 salespeople in a row, and I've got to get her, and I had to, the night before, get my thermos. I had to get her to taste my chili at 6:15 in the morning. And so I'm actually pulling out my thing, and I said, hello, Mrs. Perkins, nice to meet you. And I'm opening up this big old dorky sales bag like I'm the stupidest person in America. And I'm sitting in this little cubicle, and I open up my chili, and I start to roll in, and she goes, what are you doing, son? I have this chili, and I was going to do this. She goes, it's 6:15 in the morning. I'm rolling it back, and I'm going to give her a product sheet, and she stops me and says, do you drink coffee? Yes, ma'am. She says, let's go over to the coffee bar. And now Mrs. Perkins schools me on sales. For the next 30 minutes, we talk about family. We talk about grandchildren, friends. Was I that stupid that I believe that I could actually get someone who doesn't know me to eat my chili out of a thermos? I graduated from SMU and still did that. Who could be this stupid? But listen, all over the country, we think we can actually just go past the relationship and just get a deal because we're with such and such company and we do this really impressive thing. Bull crap. It's about relationship. It takes, the National Sales Association says it takes 5 times to call on someone to get their piece of business. 50% of Americans quit after the first call, 30% quit after the third, 10% quit after the fourth, and only 10% ever give them the goal. I said, no way. So I'm looking through this, and I said, so I found that there were 2 of my clients that I had actually called on 4 times and quit. So I flew out to meet him, and I said to him, I just read this book. Said if I call on you 5 times, I get this piece of business. They said, I hope that's not your pitch. I got $225,000 in 2 calls. Mrs. Perkins, simple message. What? People matter most. Do you care about people? Do you care about your kids when they stop in and come talk to you and you're really busy? Do you care about your wife when she talks and she's got something going on? My oldest daughter is getting married a week from today. My wife has lots of things to talk about. And don't get involved in the finances. That's not something she's even telling me about. But this is a tense time, isn't it? Tense time having a baby. Tense time with the fact that you're here and you're out doing business and you're somewhere else and you want to call your friend or your mom or your daughter and just stop and say, you know, did I tell you today that I love you? Did I stop just today to stop and tell you how much you matter to me? That you're just the love of my life. Do you know that once you have a really great kiss, all other kisses are just okay? A hug matters. I mean, I have some guy friends of mine who come up and they just love you so much they'll kiss you on the cheek just to make sure you understand. Do you know that the most impressive thing I look about each and every person in here, if I'm interviewing you, is how you introduce your friends next to you. How you introduce your daughter. Listen to me, I have one of my daughters here, Jenny. She's the love of my life. She's successful. She just got into her dream. She's now going to all of a sudden get her master's at SMU, and she's going to get it in education, and she's so excited about it. It's such a great thing to be on your dream. I got one of my right-hand people here, Katie, who's been with me for 6-7 years. She's just, everything she does, she touches, it turns to gold. How you introduce your who. I'd rather do something with them than anybody. You know there's these people at every single door we want to get through. No matter what we want, this guy is there. Entrepreneurs don't take no. I heard that today, didn't you? I mean, I don't even get the concept of no. That's never crossed my thought process. The concept that I have is this guy. So let me tell you a story. When I was young, my dad, again, is always schooling me, as you should school your kids and teach them. Because if you can teach your kids while they're young, they will end up coming back full circle and doing all the things that we're talking about. This is important stuff. So I'm in Vegas with my dad. I'm 9. Were you not in Vegas? At 9? But back in those days, it wasn't the same kind of Vegas. Well, maybe it was. But we're there at 9, and my dad, after seeing Frank Sinatra, we're at the Sands. My dad says, let's go, Bob. We're going back to see Frank Sinatra. There's the guy. He's there. He's at the door. My dad walks up and says to him, hey, Frank Sinatra. And he goes, no. Tell him Frank Beaudine from Chicago is here with his son. He's not seeing people. Look at me. My dad looks at him now. Look at me now clearly. Tell him Frank Beaudine from Chicago. Now the guy's got to start thinking. What if he knows him? What if Mr. Sinatra gets pissed at me? What if this is a big problem? So he goes back. All of a sudden, he's back. The doors are closed, etc. And of course, my dad doesn't know Frank Sinatra. There's no Frank Sinatra thing. My dad just loves Frank Sinatra like he loves Arnold Palmer. Come on. So all of a sudden, the doors are open. Frank Sinatra walks out to my dad and goes, Frank, how are ya? Come on. We go through doors. My dad had sat down and had a long conversation with him. He's now calling me Bobby, just like President Bush. Hey, I got big guys now with me. My dad then turns, he says, hey, where's your wife? Frank Sinatra turns to my dad and he says, Martha comes in tomorrow. He says, Billy, 2 tickets for, Martha and Frank tomorrow on me. Do you know that there's access sometimes just in how bold you are? Are you prepared? Are you ready? Are you bold? Are you brave? Because if you want to do something that you never have done before, you've got to step out near the edge. I dig the edge. You are all scared that I'm going to fall on my face. I know it from time to time. People up in front here are always worried about that. And the reason is I dig being on the edge. It's something that keeps my energy up. Why? Because we're going somewhere. If the two of us, we only need 2 people to agree on one thing, and there's nothing we can't do. All these things that they did, we can do better than that. I heard all those. How many people think we can do better than they just did? Come on, get your hands up. You know you can. Why? The only reason you're not, you just don't think you got who? Frank Beaudine from Chicago. You'll never forget that. Every Friday, from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we shut down our business. We call it Who Friday. We call everything something that relates around who. And from 2 to 4, everyone in our firm calls their friends and says, how are you? Can I help you? That's the whole goal. Everybody stops and just calls their friends and says, where are you in your life? How are you? Let me tell you a story. I called one of my friends. And he's a former head of human resources for a big company, and he's got this job. And I said to him, I said, hey, Bob, how are you? And he's in Scottsdale, and he says, hey, great. I said, so how's your life? How's everything going? Good. I said, how's Mary? Oh, she's okay. What's the matter? And he goes, well, you know, Bob, my son's a paraplegic. And he's 23, and he only lives to 31, and Mary's not getting enough time with Larry. There's just not enough moments. And she's starting to lose it. I said, so what does Larry like to do? Oh, gosh, Bob, he sees his wheelchair as a race car, as a NASCAR. And he says, I said, who does he love? Dale Earnhardt Jr. Everything all over his place is Dale Earnhardt Jr. He digs it. It's so unbelievable. And so I said, have you been to the race? It comes up in 3 weeks, Bob. He says, I go. We sit up in the handicap area. Does Mary go? No. I said, have you ever been down to the pit? Can I do that? I don't know if I can do that. I mean, I said, I'll call you back. I call up immediately Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s agent. I said, hey, Tim, hey, Bud, can we do something colossal? Does Dale Earnhardt Jr., is he a moment maker in someone's life? Would he jump up and do something bigger than big for Mary and Larry? And he says, yeah, Bob. I said, no, listen to me. I'm talking about big because if you don't, I know Jimmy Johnson's agent. You got to have a little leverage here, right? I got some who. You got who. But you got to leverage it a little bit. And then we're talking about moments here. He goes, no, he'll jump in. He'll do this. I said, great. All of a sudden, Cheryl and my wife and I were in Cabo, and all of a sudden, they're bringing Larry. I made one call. They're bringing Larry down to see the car and Mary and him. And all of a sudden, they come up, and then all of a sudden, Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes running out, and he's got this Polaroid. Larry! Boom! He takes his picture. And he looks at him, and he takes the Polaroid, takes out the thing, and then he goes, flips it over all of a sudden to his guys, and he looks over at Larry, and he's going, Larry, come over here, look at my car. And he takes him over to this car. He says, is this not the coolest car in the whole world? And Larry's like going, ah. His mom's all of a sudden excited. He's got the energy, and it's all amping up, and everybody's getting excited. And he's doing like this. He says, look at that. That's your picture. This is you, Larry. And he takes the flip of his visor, and he puts it in, and he goes, you're driving with me today. And all of a sudden, a wave rolls in over Mary and Larry. And he says, put on these headphones. When we go around today, I'm talking just to my team, Mary and Larry. You're part of the Earnhardt team. I'm going to speak to you, and we're going to go around it, and we're going to kick butt. He takes off his jacket, puts it around Larry, signs it, grabs a jacket out of the back of the car, and he puts it around Mary and says, look it, let's go now. The three of us, let's go now to every single one of these drivers and tell them what we're about to do to them. He gets the very first guy. Guess who? Jimmy Johnson. The very first one, he goes, Jimmy. And he goes, Dale. And he goes, we're going to kick your ass today. What? He goes, no way. And he says, I got Larry on my team. And he looks over at Larry and he goes, what were you thinking? I get the call. I'm in Mexico. It's Mary. And she goes, what did you do? She's crying. I go, did something go wrong? You created a moment for me that I'll have now for the rest of my life with my son. This is the person in my life I love more than anything, and he's in a wheelchair, and I'm disabled because I can't do something for my Larry. Are you kidding me? So I looked at her and I just said, hey, she said, she's trying to say I'm a hero, and I didn't do anything. I made one call. Do you know that you and I hold the access key to our friends' and families' goals and dreams? Do you know that you could just make one call for someone and get them a job? Do you know that you can open up something for a school? You can step into a situation that all of a sudden, I just listened to him, and he said, hey, do you think we could do this type of school? And he says, I'm in. I'm going to do the school with you. Do you know that we just do that? But my question is, we got problems everywhere right next to us. We're not helping our daughters. Do you know that daughters don't like asking their parents for help because they've been taught that parents actually they got to do it my way? So let me get this correct. I got 17 universities now taking on the power of who? 17 now. I'm teaching all over the country and teaching kids that parents are your access keys. They're not going to do the job. They can open a door for you. And if this is your dream, to what? Do a job you love, with people you love, in a place you love, where your family loves it, and you can do it for the right reasons. That's what we're all about. You hold the access key. You've got to turn it and start helping the people you love. You can. It's not all of a sudden tough love that's saying, hey, I'm gonna force that person. Open the gates. Crisis is the greatest opportunity in our lives with our friends. It is a passport for intimacy. They'll talk to you now about things that you've never talked about before if you'll just tell them that you've had trouble in your life. If you share the fact that everything's just not going great for you all the time. So I want to finish with a story. I always wanted to play golf with Arnold Palmer. My dad, 1,000,000 times more than me. That's me. I actually have a stash. Longer hair, better hair. College, I was much better. I helped somebody who called me, who's a friend, and he said to me, he said, Bob, he said, listen, he said, I don't think I can get that job. I said, come over to my place. What are you talking about? You can't get that job. He said, if you just spend a few minutes giving me some tips on interviewing, maybe I could do it. So I just lifted him up. Isn't that what friends do? We gotta help our friends. Most of it is just encouragement. If you believe in me, that changes everything. If you're my friend, nobody believes in anybody. That's what we need today. I just lifted him up. He goes and he gets this job and he's so excited. He comes back and says, I got to give you a gift. I said, what are you talking about? I wasn't in the interview. He says, no, I want to give you a gift. No, forget it. Okay, I knew you'd say that. Here's what it is. He says, how about you and your dad and me and my dad will play golf? I said, sure. He says, can I bring a friend? I said, absolutely. He says, I'm bringing Arnold Palmer. You got to be kidding. You know Arnold Palmer? He says, our company, before I leave, I get one more thing. He says, I don't care about them. Fire me. I'm taking you to Bay Hill. They flew us out. We got to play with Arnold Palmer. It was unbelievable. I got a story in my book that's going to make you cry. So unbelievable. It's a story about my dad and Arnold Palmer out on the course. I'm not going to tell you. You got to read it. Read books. So here it is. So we're finished the round. Arnie tells me the story. It's a mind blower. You gotta strap it on for this one. So Arnie tells me afterwards that he developed a golf course in Saudi Arabia. I said, wow, really? He says, the king was so excited. He says, we did the celebratory round. The king was so excited about the round that he wanted to give me a gift just like your friend. I told him, I don't come to Saudi Arabia. He says, hey, I don't, he says, I charge you a lot of money. He says, no, I want to give you a gift. And then went back, no, yes, no, yes. And the king said, well, I'm the king. If I tell you I'm going to give you a gift, you're taking my gift. Arnie goes, holy, did I blow the protocol? He says, so the king looks at him and goes, what do you want? What do you want? What do you say to a king? He's trying to get out of the conversation. He's thinking to himself, hey, I don't know what to say. He says, I collect golf clubs. So he's flying home. He thinks to himself, this is the richest man in the world. He might get me an all-gold driver, gemmed with rubies and diamonds and emeralds. He starts getting pumped. True story. 10 days go by. He's at Bay Hill. He's waiting for his box. Nothing. 13 days, nothing. On the 15th day, he gets a letter from the king. He says, Bob, I am totally bummed. I wanted my box. Where it is. He opens up this letter, and it's a deeded trust for 495 acres of a golf club. He bought him an entire golf club. That's what he thought he meant. Kings think golf club. We think golf club. Is that not unbelievable? Here it is, and Arnie looks at me, and all of a sudden, I got Mrs. Perkins schooling me, and now I got Arnie. Arnie looks at me and goes, so what are you thinking about your life? Huh? That was a great story. And he goes, no, what do you think about your life? Are you thinking golf club or golf club? And he looks at me and he says this, Arnold Palmer, as a man thinketh, so is he. Now, hold a second. God doesn't care if you drive a Pinto or a Lamborghini. God wants you to do colossal things. Inside each and every one of you is a dream that you've had for years, and you've kept it dormant, and you've hindered the ability to get this out. Mainly because you didn't have anybody encouraging. You were waiting for like Bob Barker to call. The dang guy, he's retired. He ain't calling you. You're waiting for Ed McMahon to come by with his check. He died. None of this happening. Listen to me. You got who? God already gave you all the people you needed. He sent 2 helicopters, 2 boats, and you don't want to be there at the end when he says that to you. You were given all these great people to help you. I sat next to Ken Blanchard the other day, and he was talking about get the right people. He's talking to some guy who wanted to say all this great stuff about Jim Collins and the book The Good to Great, and you know, and he said, get the right people on the bus, get all the wrong people off the bus. Jesus kept the same guys. So what, are you going to dump your friends? Your friends got friends. I sat in an interview and somebody came to me and said, well, what if all your friends are losers? I looked at her and I said, Mary, listen to this. I said, my dad was out of work for 8 months. Every day when I was young, he got dressed in a suit and went out to work. When we went to school, he would circle back in and start his job search. He didn't want us to be scared. It was a different generation. And so if you came into our office after I worked with my dad for 20 years and you didn't have an interview, you didn't have an appointment with us, we would rush out to meet you because we knew how vulnerable you felt. It's humiliating to ask for somebody when you're out of work. It's embarrassing. You want to hide and go to a bunker. For men, they've taken their whole self-esteem and put it into this. I don't want to ask somebody to help me with my company to give me the first round financing. I don't want to ask someone over here. I'd just rather do it myself, and maybe I fail, and maybe I just give up on my dream. But here's the thing. If you give up on your dream, your kids will give up on theirs. It's a generational curse. We're stopping the generational curse here today with you. So I want to remind you of a scene. One of my favorite movies, The Natural. All of a sudden, he's up in the hospital. Roy Hobbs. He's all of a sudden been fooled by the same thing twice. Glenn Close, who he's actually, actually has a child with, he doesn't know that. And they're talking about his life. We're talking about your life right now, where you are. And he says, I thought my life was going to be different. Really? She said, how so? And he says, well, I always thought everyone would say, Roy Hobbs, you're the greatest baseball player of all time. She goes, you're so great right now. And he says, yeah, but. And then he starts giving would-haves, could-haves, and should-haves. And she has to, whoa, hold it a second. She said, I'm going to leave you with this one statement. It's a good one. I think we live 2 lives, she said. I think we live 2 lives. The one we learn with, and then the one we live after that. You know the problem of hearing the message of the power of who, that you actually already know everyone you need to know, that you got friends that actually would come to your aid if you just ask them. The fact that you could be that friend to help someone is once you know something, you got to activate it. You got to live it. Now listen, the most impressive people in the world are people just like yourself who come out, leave where you are, try to learn more, try to become better, try to become inspired. You know, today is something that you could open doors and do things that you never imagined possible. And I am telling you today that you have permission to go do that. You have permission to go do all your dreams. You're never too late or too early to get back on your path. God bless you all. Thank you so much.